So, hey everybody, it is Wednesday. So I told y'all on Monday that I'd be having a conversation Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week. So I decided to come on a little bit later, hoping that more of you will have had an opportunity to get home, cook your little dinner, enjoy your family, and you are now having your downtime. And so I'm asking you to share a little bit of it with me. We're going to talk about some particular laws of dating. So come on in, wave at me, say hello. I can see you when you come in. So hello, hello, hello. You know how I say it. I just want to make sure that I'm not talking to myself because ain't no day that I'm ever going to like that. So I'm going to invite a couple of my friends while I'm waiting for you all to come on in. Like I said, do me a favor. Say hello. Give me some hearts. Give me some thumbs up, and then we can go forward with this conversation. As always, I tell you that I promise I will not be here long. We're going to talk about some things, and then we're going to move forward, right, and enjoy the rest of our evening. So again, I hope everybody has had an amazing Wednesday. Come on in. Hey, y'all. Hey, Renora. Hey, Michelle. How everybody? Come on in. Come on in. So let's talk about this. We're going to talk a little bit about effective communication as it relates to dating, right? So that's the kind of the series that I've been on. We're talking about laws of dating, just in an effort to help people who are in that place in life. If you are in the dating stage, and for what this is worth, this particular conversation that we're going to have today, it works regardless if you're dating, married. It just works in all of your dynamics. It's all about effective communication, right? That sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it and how you receive it, right? As we talk about relationships, whether you are in the stage of building a brand new relationship or you 50 years in, right? One of the, hey, Renita, one of the key things for every relationship, like it is absolutely essential, is communication, right? And not just communication, but effective communication. Because the way that you communicate in your dynamic can either be the life or the death of your relationship or your potential relationship, right? And so you have to understand first that communication is simply the flow of information. There is a sender and there is a receiver, right? And so that when you are in the dating process, so I always repeat this because I want you all to understand. So when we talk about dating, we're talking about that get to know stage. I'm talking about what I call a pre-relationship stage in which you are dating. You are gathering information. You are gathering data. One of the most important things that you should seek to build, right, is effective communication. If you want to limit any misunderstandings, if you want to limit any arguments, or if you want to limit, you know what I'm saying, everything that could possibly go left and damage your relationship, you're going to have to learn how to effectively communicate. Now, one of the things you have to be mindful of, right, is again, it's not always what we say. People are always talking about let's be 100, let's keep it real. And I'm all for that. I absolutely agree. But in your effort to keep it 100 and in your effort to keep it real, there is no moment in there that you should seek to tear anybody else down. And in the same token, there's no room for anybody else to be able to come and tear you down. Right? Communication, again, is just being able to share information in a way, right, that helps to build your dynamic, in a way that helps your dynamic to grow, right? And here's the thing, communication is just not about what's being said, because when you talk about what's being said, ultimately all you're referring to is the sender part of communication. But in order for communication to really be effective, both parties, whether you're the sender or the receiver, has to consider their role. The sender has, like, whatever day that is. Then when you're the sender, that means you are giving information, you are sending information, you are speaking, writing, you are communicating it. As the sender, you're giving, right? And so, yes, you need to be mindful of how you are delivering your words, how you are delivering your actions, how you are delivering what you do. Sometimes we get so self-focused that we don't consider that in your dating, that means that you're considering allowing another person in your space. And so that when you come to that moment, you can't be selfish. Right? You have to learn, right, how to communicate in a way that builds. But also the other person has a responsibility as well as the receiver. And we both could find ourselves on any end, just depending on the conversation. But as the receiver, you also have to check how you are perceiving the information that's been given, right? A lot of times, especially if we've been hurt or we've been disappointed, we automatically stand in our situations, right, with our guards up, right? And when you do that, it does not allow you an opportunity to clearly hear what's being said because you're so busy listening to the conversation that is already going on in your head. You know that conversation, oh, I done heard this before, or oh, you know what I'm saying? Like people say that all the time. You know what I mean? So while you are so busy having that conversation in your head, you miss what the other person is really saying to you, right? Or you miss the intent or the spirit of what it is that the other person is saying to you. There is no relationship. And I'm telling you, I promise you, if you don't believe me, ask somebody else. There is no relationship that can last, if you know what I mean, without effective communication, right? And let's just say this, not just in the dating, it's important with every relationship with your family. It's important on your job. It's important with your friends. Communication and effective communication is just a necessity. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. You cannot have a functioning, right? A functioning or a successfully functioning relationship if you do not have the ability to effectively communicate. And you can start out in a situation where maybe your communication skills are not the best, but that is also something that you can learn, right? We can all learn, no matter how old we are, no matter what experiences that we've had, we all have the ability to reprogram our brain and to reprogram, you know what I mean, whatever it is, whatever our prior experiences are. And we have the ability to learn how to effectively communicate, right? Most important, why is it important to effectively communicate in relationships? Why is it important to effectively communicate when you're dating? Because you have to build a foundation in which your relationship has the ability to stand on. And one of the key things that is absolutely necessary to build a relationship on is effective communication. Right? Those are all foundational things. You need trust. You need effective communication. You know what I mean? You need these things in order for your relationship to benefit, or in order for you to get the maximum benefit out of a relationship. Right? It's nothing worse than being with a person. And I don't know if anybody else has ever had this situation, but I've seen it on TV. I probably had a situation like that, but it's nothing worse than being in a relationship with somebody who lacks the ability to communicate. Right? They don't know how to express their feelings. They cannot express their emotions. They cannot express, you know what I'm saying? Have you ever asked somebody what they want in a situation or what they want the outcome to be? And they really on some, I don't know. No, we can't do that. Right? Or they don't know how to communicate so that they don't know how to resolve conflict. When you are dating, you're blending your personalities. You're blending your spirits, right? And sometimes in the blending process, because we all come from different backgrounds, we all come from different experiences as it relates to relationships. And sometimes, right, in that process, we do have conflict. Because it's all about, again, dating is the pre-relationship stage. Dating just never ends. You should still date when you're in a committed relationship. You should still date, right, when you get engaged. You should still date when you're married. Why? Because you are still constantly gathering information. You are still constantly gathering data on each other. Who have we become? Who have we grown to be? What do your goals look like at this point in your life? What do you see your purpose at? But that's why it's important to constantly have that going. right? And no matter what stage you find yourself in your relationships, dating, marriage, whatever, you still have to understand that in order for your relationship to get the maximum, in order for you to get the maximum benefit out of your relationship and to have a successful relationship, you have to learn how to effectively communicate, right? That resolves any unnecessary conflicts, right? That resolves any unnecessary misunderstandings, right? The ability to effectively communicate, right, gives you just a smooth surface to work with. It allows you a smoother surface to work with because you're able to communicate to each other your thoughts. You're able to communicate with each other your feelings. You're able to communicate with each other the desires of your heart. Right? You're able to let a person know what works for you and doesn't work for you. And in case you don't know, screaming and yelling is not effective communication. It's just not. It may feel good in the moment because you're upset, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. Some people just go off the deep end. It is what it is. But that's not effective communication because trust me when I tell you, the person that you are yelling and screaming at has probably tuned you out probably after about the third or fourth word because nobody wants to be, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody wants to be in that situation. So another part of effectively communicating means learning how to do it in a space of being calm, without yelling, without cursing, without being rude, right? These are all things that will help as we talk about the dating and building relationships, right? You got to learn how to do it in a peaceful place, in an intelligent place. We're adults, right? And as an adult, you have to have the ability to rein your emotions in, especially when you're angry. Because if you do not rein your emotions in before you begin to communicate with somebody, that's how words are said that you probably say you never really meant to say, right? And words hurt. And some people mean for the words to hurt, and some people do not, right? And so that's the other reason why it's so important to learn how to effectively communicate so that you learn how to get your point across without yelling and screaming, that you learn how to get your point across without damaging the other person, right? But remember, I'm also talking from both ends. Not only that, when someone is communicating with you, right, you need to let them know that in order to really have a conversation, they have to be able to say it in a manner that is not yelling and screaming and is not cussing and all that other crazy stuff we do. A lot of people in relationships with people who tend to shut down, like if something's going on and something's not going on, and it could be something that's going on in their personal life. It doesn't even have to have anything to do with your dating dynamic or your relationship dynamic. But because they have not learned how to, if that's a skill, in case you don't know, effective communication is really a skill. But and when you don't know, if they don't know how to effectively communicate, they will not be able to tell you in a way that you can really understand, like what's really going on. So in other words, what I'm saying to you, as we talk about building a relationship and that the dating stage is the pre-relationship part of your relationship. I said that sounds like I'm repeating it, but you get my point. But the dating portion is that moment where you're creating that foundation, right? I talked about these things the other day. I'm just reviewing and then I'm going to leave. So far I've talked about as it relates to dating, not to force it, right? To let your situation evolve organically, right? I also talked about today effective communication, learning how to send and receive information in a way that builds and not destroys, in a way, right, that helps each other to have a clear understanding of where or what's going on in your relationship or what's going on in your dynamic, right? We also talked about change being necessary, right? Seasons, we talked about seasons change. And I said that even in relationships, seasons change. And depending on how that season changes, see, this is where communication comes in. That when that season has shifted in your relationship, if you have the ability to effectively communicate, you may be able to dig down to the root of it and figure out, especially if the season has changed and things feel kind of negative, then with your effective communication skills, you can kind of drill down to the bottom and get to the root of it and to find out, hey, what's going on, what's caused us to go left, and then to be able to work on it, right? Effective communication just helps in every single part of your relationship, right? And again, not just with your eros or romantic relationships, but man, I'm telling you, like good communication, effective communication, it's important across the board, at work, at church, at home. It's just important. And everybody needs to learn how to effectively communicate. So I just thought, that's a great conversation to have, because I think a lot of times these are the reasons why people aren't doing so well in their dating process, or they're not getting the maximum benefit out of the experience because they don't even know, They don't even know the foundational principles, or they don't even know foundational laws, right? That must be in place in order to get the most out of the dynamic. And there's nothing that anybody could tell you. If anybody tells you that communication or effective communication is not necessary for a relationship, let me go ahead and tell you now, that's a lie. There is no relationship that can last. There is no relationship that can grow, right? Grow properly without effective communication. It's a must. It's just like air, right? If you don't have your air, you can't breathe, you're going to die. It's the same thing. Communication, and I said that earlier when we first started. Communication, depending on how you do it, has the ability to make or break a relationship. You all think money gonna make a relationship go left. No, baby. The lack of communication will make a relationship go left real quick. And it's a miserable existence, right? For the sender and for the receiver. Nobody wants to be in that type of situation. So as you're building, like today, it's just not about dating. But if you are dating, just remember that is necessary. As you're gathering all the other information, gather information in regards to how that person communicates. Gather information in order to figure out how you all can create a healthy flow between the two of you, regardless of what the situation is, regardless of what the season, that you make a commitment that you will always effectively communicate, right? And I said that in a way that builds and not tears down, right? In a way that's loving and kind. You can still speak your truth. You can still communicate your truth, but you have to communicate it in a way that is loving and is kind and is not detrimental to your relationship, nor is it detrimental to the spirit and the emotion of the person that you are communicating with. But also on the flip side, as the receiver, when you are receiving the information, you cannot receive the information, right, with the thoughts or based on the history and experience of your past. You have to receive the information based on the dynamic you are now in. One thing I always tell people, because I hear this all the time, people meet somebody, but they always talking about, oh, they was hurt in the past, or what another female did to them, or what another man did to them. No, you cannot do that. When you enter into a new relationship or situation or whatever it is, you got to clear the past out. And you have to remember that with the new person, you don't have any experience. With the new person, you don't have any history, right? And so that you cannot assume that they're going to be like the last person. And you cannot automatically shut down, right, in the area of communication because you basing it on how your past situation was. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you were with somebody before that didn't have the ability to communicate, but that doesn't mean your new person does. And if you identify in the dating stage that there is a communication issue, it is in the dating stage that you get it in order. Because if you have a communication issue in the dating stage of your relationship, You're going to have a communication issue when you all commit. You're going to have a communication if you get married, right? That's something you have to work on. It's not always natural and just there for everybody or for other people. It requires work. That's why it's called a skill, right? Because a skill is something that you have to develop, right? A skill needs work, right? In order for it to be everything it should be, and again, we're talking about as it relates to dating, right? You got to work at it. You got to make a commitment to work at it every single day. And even if you're not dating, like say you're in a single space and you haven't met anybody, you should still be working on your effective communication skills, because you don't just need them in relationships. Because remember, sometimes it's just not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. But then the same token, it's also how you're receiving or how you're perceiving it. I thought that would be just a great conversation to have with you all. I did tell you I was going to come back. I said that this week I'd be talking Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I know my times vary. I try to find a time when I think that most of you are available and really available to, to listen. Thank you, Renita. You know what I mean? I'm just, because at the end of the day, my goal is to help you have healthy relationships and to heal from those toxic experiences of your past, right? I understand that people have been hurt in relationships. I understand that people have been disappointed in relationships, but that does not mean that you have to stay in that space. It does not mean, you know what I mean? Hey, Tanya, it doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying, that you are not worthy of being able to have God's absolute best as it relates to relationships. But even in that, you still have a responsibility to do your part, right? And one of the things as it relates, to doing your part is developing your communication skills. And remember, I said that communication is simply a flow of information, right, from one person to another, right? The person who is speaking it or whatever or presenting it is the sender. And the person that it is aimed at or that it is, towards is the receiver, right? And in order for it to work, everybody on both ends has to master the art of effective communication, right? If you want peace in your relationship, learn how to communicate. If you want joy in your relationship, learn how to communicate. I promise you will not fail, right? I am not giving information that I'm just shooting in the breeze. I'm telling you, it works. Whether it's as a man, whether it's a woman, it works. And not only does it work, as I said before, and I'm leaving, in your dating dynamics, effective communication skills are just needed across the board, point blank and period. Right? It's necessary. Some things are just what it is, and necessary. All right, y'all. It's been fun. I'll be back on Friday. We're going to talk about something different. Again, thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for listening. Share with your good friends. Thank you, Tanya. Share with your good friends. Like I said, the goal at the end of the day is to let you know that one, love does not leave bruises. Love is not meant to hurt. Love is not meant to damage. And love is not meant to destroy, right? I don't care what nobody try to tell you. Love doesn't hurt. The person may hurt you, but love didn't hurt you. Two, right? The goal is to make sure that you are equipped with the necessary tools, right? And information that will help you to move forward and have healthy, loving relationships, right? So communication was the conversation for tonight. It's been fun. Enjoy your Wednesday. We'll talk later.